For more on this and the rest of the Karl Rove headlines, let's turn now to the host of the Rachel Maddow Show on Air America. Rachel Maddow, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Hi, Amy.
All right, so let's talk about Mr. Rove and this about face. What would explain it? How does he get away with it? Does he get away with it?
Well, I think the reason that he's come up with this new story is because it's been revealed just over the past week or so that the Valerie Plame case is still a huge political liability for the White House. When Karl Rove announced that he was resigning, there was this initial flurry of, oh, he's so sweet, he's so nice, he's so funny about Karl Rove, all these people excited about him within the pundit class. When people came to their senses and remembered he's actually a very senior White House official who's had this role in this very unpalatable thing that is unresolved, it became, I think, apparent to them in the past week that it was untenable to leave the Karl Rove role in the Valerie Wilson case unresolved at this point. I'm not sure they knew it was going to be a big part of their political legacy. It's now, I think, apparent to them that they need a better story to tell about Karl Rove's involvement in that, and so they're trying to spin one up right now.
Rachel, do you think that Karl Rove is worried, concerned about how he'll be remembered in history? I mean, what gives with this big media tour?
Yes, he's concerned, and he ought to be. I mean, I think there's two reasons to my mind that we can think about why he's done this big political media tour. Number one is that President Bush is back on vacation in Crawford again, and so it's kind of nice to have Karl Rove out there to focus on as the Republican focal point. Everybody thinks of him as Bush's brain anyway. It gets the heat off of Bush for a little while to have people talking about Karl Rove. But the other part of it is, as Dana mentioned, he's setting himself up for his post-White House life, and he's, in essence, auditioning for his pundit job, I think. He wants to be seen as somebody who's a legitimate commentator and not just part of Bush, I think, for his post-White House life, and so he's got to get out there and speak on his own terms now.
Yeah, in addition to those televised interviews we've been discussing, we know he sat down with the New York Times for an interview that was published yesterday, and he blames Democrats for the divisive tone that has dominated this administration, obviously. And I'm curious, is this a classic play from the Rove playbook? Is this anything unexpected?
I laughed out loud when I got to that part of the interview. I thought it was so funny because what he actually said was, Democrats have been dividing this country for the past 6 years by saying that George Bush wasn't legitimately elected, that he's an illegitimate president. They've been saying that he lied to the country and that he misled the country. And he's not saying that those things aren't true. He's just saying that it's been so awful that people have been saying those things. That's like saying it's not so much the murder, it's that awful trial that happened after the murder. He didn't say those things aren't true. He's just mad that Democrats have been pointing them out. It's such classic Rovian tactics, but we're now so used to them after all these years of Bush that they're really transparent and sometimes inadvertently hilarious.
Yeah, and he's the first political strategist to take on this dual role as being a White House advisor. Do you think that he'll likely be the last? I mean, could anyone else really do what Rove has done?
I hope that he's the last. I mean, I really hope that he's the last. I think that what he did was just so dangerous. I mean, we've never had a better lesson as a nation for why policy and politics are two different things. When you run campaigns to win, the other side that loses is the other person who wanted that political job. But when you run policy, when you literally run the country as if you are running a political campaign, then we all lose. We all lose for the political benefit of the figurehead that man was serving. And by bringing his political campaign strategist into the White House to literally run domestic policy for a large portion of his presidency, I think Bush gave us the best lesson we could ever have on why that should never, ever happen again.
And while we have you here talking about some of the events of the day, we know Senator Patrick Leahy, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, has threatened to hold members of the Bush administration in contempt for missing that deadline, another deadline, and not producing subpoenaed information about the president's wireless or a secret eavesdropping program. Do you think he'll actually do it, and will it matter if and when he does?
I think that he will do it. I guess I'm hoping that he will do it. I think that he will because I think he's smart, and I think that Pat Leahy has, in his kind of heartwarmingly angry outbursts in the Senate over the past few months as this Democratic Senate has really flexed its oversight muscles, I think that Pat Leahy has shown that he understands the real damage of not proceeding with contempt proceedings. The benefit here is not so much how badly you can nail a particular White House official, official for having done something wrong. The reason you have to proceed with things like that is because if you don't, if you let that stuff stand, if you let contempt of Congress stand and this abuse of the separation of powers, then you've said it's okay for future presidents. It can't stand.
All right. Rachel Maddow, host of The Rachel Maddow Show on Air America. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amy.